After the garbage of last season, besides Dr. Stone and the Dumbbell Show in my own opinion, we have a season full of continuations. Good thing too, because these are the shows that I already know and love, plus some promising new stuff. So let's get right to it. Sorry in advance because this is a long one. There are a lot of really good shows this season, so if you just want to skip to a specific part, you can just click to it in the description below. Here we go. Bones back at it again with the most popular show right now getting its 4th season, and rightfully so. If you've never watched My Hero Academia because you either think it's too popular or you don't want to be associated with that crowd, which happens, trust me, or just have never seen it, let me tell you right now, you need to watch this show. The first season might not be that good, but once they get to the 2nd season, they expand on everything. The characters, the world, more quirks, etc. It really is a shonen that's actually good, not like the trash that many basic shonen fans love. I'm sorry. This is a shonen that has pretty stereotypical shonen elements, but it plays them off so well with its characters, how in-depth the world is, and how interesting quirks are. Okay, so imagine a world where 80% of the people obtain superpowers by a young age. Now with superpower or superhero stories, they need to show weakness because if the superhero is too overpowered, it's not relatable to a wide audience. Plus, if they're so overpowered without any conflict, the story is going to become very bad. Good thing this show's quirk system is so great. Every quirk has a flaw, and it's not just a little flaw. Most are fatal flaws. Our protagonist Deku obtains his quirk from All Might in the beginning because he's one of the 20 that doesn't obtain a quirk. His quirk is so powerful that he can't control it, and he ends up breaking his body parts every time he uses it. You think he has this fatal flaw because he obtains something that really isn't his, but other very strong characters have fatal flaws as well. Bakugo, Deku's rival, has the ability to use explosions from his hands, and they aren't just small explosions. They're huge, super powerful explosions. What's his fatal flaw? The sweat is the thing that makes his explosions. Nitroglycerin's in his sweat, and it causes the explosions because of the sparks that his body makes. He can't sweat consistently, so he's defenseless if his sweat runs out. All Might, the strongest hero, can't be Big All Might all the time, so when he's Small Might, he's also defenseless. Just some of the incredible characters in the show with fatal flaws. The antagonists are also really good. Some are actually extremely relatable, like Stain, and that's really cool. It's really good and you should check it out. This season just continues that fun and excitement from the end of the 3rd season. If you want to check it out, it's on Crunchyroll, Verve, Funimation, and Hulu. Very popular, but don't let that deter you from the amazing characters, worlds, and powers. Everyone's favorite isekai is back at it again with a new video. This time, Jesus-kun and only Jesus-kun explores a new virtual world that's completely different from any other VR program he's been in the past. Now this virtual world goes through time much faster than the real world, plus the actual person in the machine forgets everything that happened within the machine because the program is so real and immersive. You can also feel real pain instead of it being toned down in SAO and GGO. Unfortunately for our savior over here, he gets stabbed protecting his waifu, damsel in distress, or should I say, Asuna, and he gets put into a coma. To save him, they put him back into the virtual world, only this time, he remembers everything from the outside, including sword skills, which this game has. Oh, he also can't leave. Big rip for our savior over here. Another thing I forgot to mention is that this program he's in isn't really a video game, but rather a thing designed to make AIs that are as normal as humans so they can transfer the Fluchtlights, which are essentially artificial souls, into robots, so you can have fully functioning AI. This first season deals with our savior, Jesus-kun, and Yu-Gi-Oh, or should I say, Best Bro, who cuts down a tree for a living. They go to the capital to save a girl named Alice that they were all close to when they were little because she got taken by guards, and so much more. This world has a set of rules called the Taboo Index, and Alice was taken because she accidentally puts her fingertip in the dark territory, which is a no-no. Think of the 10 Commandments, but if you disobey any of the rules, you get taken to the capital for some bad things that you'll find out if you watch it. Asuna, or Damsel in Distress, worries a lot about Jesus-kun. But he's out here adding another girl to his ever-expanding harem named Alice Synthesis 30 later on in the show. She seems familiar. I just recently sat down and caught up with it, and it's super enjoyable. And if you're wondering, I'm one of the people that doesn't despise SAO. I've always enjoyed it despite its flaws. Please don't leave. It was the show that actually got me into anime, and if you watched it as your very first anime, all the problems won't be noticed since many of the problems are anime trope problems. Obviously, if you've never seen any anime, you won't have this problem. This season of SAO is considered the best arc of SAO. A1 Pictures is adapting all of it, so it's going to be 50 episodes with the second half airing this season. People throw up in the air constantly that it's the best arc, but never explain why. I'll tell you why it's not. You like info dump? No? Well, too bad. Because there's at least 4 or 5 episodes where the entire time they talk about what the Alicization project is. That's the program that Jesus-kun is in. The pasts of certain characters, which sometimes is fine, but this past lasts for 2 whole episodes. Explaining the creator? The commander? Oh, the administrator of the world. That sucks. I feel like people like this season more because Damsel in Distress isn't in it at all. Every season where she's not in it, other than the Yuki arc, people are like, best season. Well, they're wrong. Okay, this season isn't too bad. I'm just kidding about the not the best season thing. Jesus-kun and Best Bro have good chemistry and grow to become great swordsmen. The new world is kind of interesting too. It feels like an actual world. People actually bleed and feel emotions, unlike some of the other SAO games, which is neat. The music is still as good as it's always been, and the stakes are real too. Since he can feel real level pain, if he gets mortally wounded, he'll definitely feel it. Good thing there are revive spells and such. The last 4 or 5 episodes of Alicization are crazy. It's so violent and so sexual. Yes, I said sexual. That it feels like a different show entirely. It's great. The only thing people might disagree with me on is the animation. I think it looks like most A1 Pictures slice shows, except that it looks shinier. Kinda like how Kyoto Animation shows have their new style compared to their old one. It's shinier to me. That's the best way I can describe it, I'm sorry. I feel like the previous seasons had better animation, which is weird to say, but that's just how I feel. Okay, enough about SAO. Check it out if you're watching SAO. If not, don't. Check it out on Hulu and Crunchyroll, probably Funimation too. I'm too lazy to check. This physically hurts me. Now, I used to be a huge fan of Food Wars. Have you ever heard the expression food porn, where they show a lot of really good food? This show was that, but literally, with shonen. What I mean by that is that it's hard to show the taste of food visually, so they show people's clothes ripping off with excited expressions, or someone saying some metaphor of how the food tastes, and the show showing that, which usually ends up with someone naked. But anyway, imagine a show with a kid who is trained by his father who is a pro chef, go to a cooking school where the graduation rate is lower than 5%, and he has to survive in this cutthroat school. It sounds like a pretty typical shonen plot, but it was so good. Soma, the protagonist, is a pretty talented cook already, so he's extremely cocky and he says he'll never lose to people who have never cooked in a real restaurant. Obviously, he learns hard truths, but that's not till later. So he trains by learning new and real cooking techniques, meets people with new, unique cooking styles, and develops his own style of cooking. Sounds kinda weird, right? A shonen about cooking? How would they do that? Well, at this prestigious cooking school, to deal with any problem, they do these things called shokugeki, or food battles. 2 people face head-to-head in a battle, making a specific dish, and having a group of judges test it. It's used for gaining new clubs, progressing in the ladder of the school, and so on. This ladder of the school is used to determine who the best cooks are, with the 10 best being in a class higher than the student council, and even some of the staff at the school. Soma loves this idea and aims for number 1, like a good shonen protagonist. The first season is so good, with Soma cultivating his cooking skills, him meeting unique rivals with their own stories, personalities, and most importantly cooking styles. The arcs are great, with the training camp arc being my personal favorite, and so much more. Unfortunately, it goes to being realistic food shonen to unrealistic over-the-top shonen. Not to say it's not fun to watch anymore, it's just it doesn't have the same depth as the first season. Most shonens get worse over time, so it's no surprise, but Food Wars' ending apparently is so bad, people want an anime original ending. Whoo boy! I'm excited to see JC's staff adapt this. Oh, another thing. The animation has gotten progressively worse. JC's staff used to be so great with shows like Toradora, Maid-sama, and others. Now they're doing things like One Punch Man, Index's latest season, and stuff like that. They're ruining old properties and destroying their new stuff. But with Food Wars, unfortunately, they did the same thing. The first season had dynamic shots with angles and interesting things going on with the camera and the shot composition. The second season still had that, but to a lesser degree. And the third season, let's just say I don't want to watch a slideshow. They did the biggest taboo in animation, and that is have the character on screen not move at all with a pan with only their lips moving. It would be fine if they did this occasionally, but they did this all the time, especially in the Totsuki train arc. It makes me sad. I used to love this show, but now a lot of the characters are getting thrown to the back burner, the food battles are getting old, and the story is getting really cartoonish, with a villain that isn't too great in the third season, in my own opinion. I'm still excited for this show, but not as much as I once was. If you want to watch Food Wars, it's on Crunchyroll, Hulu, not all of it, and Funimation. Next to My Hero Academia Season 4, this is my most anticipated show of this season. I love this show. It's so good, and it's probably one of my favorite shows of all time. So since the end of the second season in 2011, people, including myself, have waited patiently for a conclusion to this incredible show. It's super popular in Japan, spawning 3 movies and having the manga be critically acclaimed. But what's it about? Okay, so a girl named Chihaya doesn't really have a dream of her own. She just wants to see her sister succeed in her modeling career. When she meets a new kid in her class named Arata, she discovers that he loves a Japanese card game called Karata, which I'll explain later. Arata finds out that she has the talent for Karata because of her extremely good hearing. Chihaya then switches her dream from watching her sister succeed to become the best Karata player in Japan, which would then make her the best Karata player in the world. Now, for the explanation of Karata. There's a thing in Japan called the 100 Poets. It's a collection of poems from different poets, and this is the foundation of Karata. First, you have to memorize all 100 poems. Then after you've done that, you have to get a card deck and place it in a very specific way of 3 rows. Your opponent does this too because Karata is a 1v1 game. You get a certain amount of minutes to memorize 50 cards in the field, then the game begins. Now you might be wondering, why just 50 cards? Well, the other cards could be dead cards, meaning that if they're called and not in the field, you can relax. It's to keep the players on their toes, I believe. Anyway, the reader reads the first mandatory poem twice. It's a card that's always read and isn't on the field of play. After this, the reader picks cards from the box and it's the full poem, but on your field, it's only the second verse of the poems. So the reader reads the first verse in a very specific way, and it's your job to pick up the card with the second verse on it. You can hit all of the cards around you too if you hit the correct card, but you're only allowed to hit with one hand. It can be a pretty complex game, and it's not easy to learn, but boy is it hype to watch. A good sports show gets you into the sport even if you don't like it, and this show does that. But it's a shame because this game is only in Japanese. Would be lots of fun to play too. Big cry. Anyway, back to the show. The characters are all really great. They focus on each of them for an episode, and the 5 of them really work together as a team. Team Karata is consisted of 5 people, but it's still 1v1. The team with the most wins wins. Like if one team has 3 wins, they have the majority wins and then they win the entire thing. It gets really tense for some of the matches. Another thing this show does well is romance. Most sports shows have some other storylines or plots or whatever involving romance, but romance is a big thing here. Chihaya really likes Arata since he's someone who taught her so much about karate, but Chihaya's childhood friend Taichi really likes her too, so it's a love triangle type of deal. Like, this show has so much good about it. I'd recommend it to anyone. Don't think that the game is boring just because it's a card game. Watch the show, then make your own opinion. They're bringing the main staff back, and it's made by Madhouse, so please check it out. The character designs are very unique, the characters themselves all have depth, the team really feels like a team, the romance elements are stronger than most sports animes I've ever seen, so much good. If you want to check it out, it's on Crunchyroll, High Dive, and Verve. I didn't like this show. Not surprising, because this is just one of 2 gacha game adaptations this season. You think game adaptations are bad? Gacha game adaptations are worse. A lot of the times, gacha games don't have stories, and it's just a game, or they have an extremely shallow backstory. Gonna be 100% honest here and say that I don't know much about this game. I know that it's a gacha game, but that's it. So anyway, this first episode was mostly just an intro to the conflict going on in the show. Azur Lane is this group who have to take down a threat known as the Sirens. They antagonize people and Azur Lane have to stop them. We get introduced to the world, the Sirens, the various girls, and the ways that they attack. It reminds me a little bit of Kantai Collection. The girls have like the gear from Attack on Titan, but it's the ships they control just in like a compact way on their body. They shoot things like planes from them, or they have energy projectiles. So it's just objects manifested into girls like Kantai Collection or Arpeggio of Blue Steel. This show was boring. I don't like any of the characters. Most of them are lollies, so it's like a bunch of toddlers fighting big titty furry onesans, because that's what the Sirens are. At least the ones that I've seen. There was one part that made me laugh though. One of the Sirens calls someone a not a good enough meal, and that made me think, she ain't a snack. The action is a mix of 2D and 3D, but I think at least when the characters move, they use 2D. Kantai Collection uses 3D for character movements sometimes, and it looks really weird. So I'm glad they didn't do that for Azur Lane. Too bad the show's so hectic that you can't follow the action. The camera whips around so fast that everything's so blurry. I can't follow it. Not to say that all the action looks bad, it's just that a majority of it looks bad. Another thing that wasn't too bad was the music. Maybe they just used some tracks from the game, but there were a lot of really good songs. Unfortunately, that's the one thing that I enjoyed really. I wasn't really expecting too much, and that's what I got. I'm probably not going to continue this one. If you want to watch it, it's on Hulu and Funimation. Man, I didn't think I'd like this show, but it's really interesting. So the story that I got from the first episode is about an extended, which are people with cyber enhancements who help people who are also extended with various problems. I have a feeling that this show is going to be episodic with plot episodes, but that's just a guess. Our main character literally has a gun for a head. It's really weird, but the show does a good job kind of diverting your attention away from it. You eventually forget it because this show takes mostly everything seriously. There are some funny parts too, but this show seems like a gritty crime drama with this gun for a head main character. The first episode was pretty interesting. We dealt with the corporation trying to experiment on children and cybernetically enhance them or something. I know I said earlier that the show might be episodic, but I think this show actually might go down the route of protecting this boy. It's not bad. I like the character designs too. The animation is smooth, and I love the background music. It sounds like it was ripped straight out of LA Noire or something. If you want to watch the show, it's on Hulu and Funimation, I believe. Not gonna lie, I saw the poster for this and thought it was a yaoi. It's not, I don't think, but it wouldn't matter if it was or wasn't because this show is great. I can never pass up sports shows because I like them so much. So, Apid's the studio behind this, and I think they're getting better and better. They did That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, which looks pretty good, and now they're doing this show. The character designs look pretty bland, but the way everything looks and moves is pretty unique. Kinda looks like a mix of Hanabeto and Made in Abyss because of the rounder faces and making the characters look like they glow a bit. The characters are pretty good too. At least the captain of the soft tennis team, Toma, has a clear goal in saving the soft tennis team since they might disband soon. He finds a friend from the past named Maki who transferred back and begs him to join the team because of his great reflexes. It's interesting to see Maki as a character because they also show his home life and how he acts at school. His home life is complicated and he's responsible for all the chores since his mother works all the time. Despite being in such a bad place, his family seems like they get along pretty well. With Toma, he and his brother seem to get along, but his mother doesn't like Toma for reasons we don't know yet. So both boys kinda have the same dilemma of divorce, I believe, so they'll probably bond over this later in the show. I don't really know how they don't know each other better because they were friends in the past. Maybe it was just like a surface friendship level type thing, and now is the time where Toma wants to learn more about Maki. The music's also really good. This season has so many good soundtracks, and this is just one of them. So what surprised me about this is that it's an original. So it could be good, or could be really bad. But we'll see. So far, I actually really like it. It started a little boring, but as it kept going, it got more and more interesting. So if you want to watch it, it's on Funimation and Hulu. What a great first episode back from the season break that they had. This episode's a good indication why this show is so good. All of the characters are completely different from how we first saw them. Plus they talk about how one character's koto playing grew in a way that grew with her character. Like in the past, she played very precise and by the book, but by joining this koto club, her play has become so much more. It reminds me a lot of Your Lie in April with the prodigy who plays very robotic, but then changes his style when he plays with Kaori. The biggest sleeper of spring 2019, Kono Oto Tomare, was a show that I watched because it got heavily compared to Chihayafuru, and I love that show, like you guys already know. I definitely see the comparisons. The show's about a guy who's the last member of the Koto Club, and he needs more members or the club will disband, kinda like Stars Align. He finds a guy by the name of Chika who's a delinquent no one can trust. He wants to join the Koto Club, but because of all the bad things Takezo has heard about him, he refuses to let Chika into the club. Through time, however, Takezo realized Chika isn't a bad person and accepts him into the Koto Club. More characters appear and more conflict happens within the club, but then they all eventually become very tight-knit. The best things about this show are how real the team feels and how much the characters change. Every character gets their own time to develop, and we learn about their pasts and their own conflicts and problems. The funniest thing about this show is that all the characters are extremely unlikable at first, which can be a hard turnoff. Please stick with it. They turn around in a very organic way, and the payoff is so worth it. The Koto music is obviously very good, but the soundtrack fits so well in so many moments. You could say that the animation is bad, but if you look at the manga, they basically follow it to a T, and they match that light-looking feeling that the manga conveys. It really fits Chika's character, a delinquent who isn't as scary as everyone seems, and he's actually gentle when he plays the koto, so people become stunned. I love this show so much. This studio, Platinum Vision, hasn't made much, but they're doing a really good job with this show in my own opinion. If you want to watch this show, which I highly recommend, it's on Hulu and Funimation. This is just one of the new sports shows of the season. It always seems like these shows come in twos. The summer season of last year had Hanabeto and Harukana Receive. The season right after that one had Tsurune and Run with the Wind. And this season has this and Stars Align. I have to say, this is looking good for sports this season. So this show is about a kid named Sora who's small and always stands up for himself. He's kinda cocky and gets beat up all the time for being small, but like I said, he never backs down from a challenge. Anyway, he wants to join the basketball team at his school after his mother gave him her shoes from when she did basketball. But the basketball team is full of delinquents. Sora tries to make them join with him, and they obviously just make fun of him. They eventually agree to a challenge proposed by Sora. If he can score a basket 1v5, they'll join the team. This is the point in the show where Sora shows off his skills despite being so short. The delinquents are shocked and it goes from there. It reminds me of Hajime no Ippo because it starts the same way with the main character getting bullied under a bridge and then being rescued by someone. The only difference is that the main character here knows a lot about basketball, it seems, while Ippo knows nothing about boxing in the beginning. So far, it seems pretty promising. The character designs look kinda weird because of the lips, but the animation seems pretty good. They do the common explain everything after showing it, which in my own opinion is fun, especially in sports shows. It's definitely not the best cinematically, but if you don't know what happened, it's nice to have an explanation in the correct terms of the sport. So far, it's pretty good actually. I like the characters a lot. The main character is really lively and great at basketball, so he's like the spark that gets the other delinquents into the game. I'm excited to see more of this actually. If you want to watch the show, it's on Crunchyroll, Verve, and High Dive. I thought this was going to be a generic harem, but boy was I wrong. This show is like a mix of Toradora and Karakano. A guy gets girls together with other people and our main character is two-faced. The full explanation goes like this. Our main character is this normal everyday high schooler who knows a girl from his childhood, a girl who's the president of their high school, and his guy friend named Sun. Turns out both the girls he knows like Sun, and they want him to set him up with Sun. Our main character then finds out later that there's another girl he finds with glasses who is quote-unquote sharp-tongued, but is the only one who actually likes him. This show starts out extremely generic, but then becomes very convoluted very fast. Lots of confessions, lots of planning around the other person, lots of keeping things secret, stuff like that. I swear when I got to the third episode, it was like psychological warfare between different parties. It's actually pretty good. This show is so funny. It's like they're trying to make fun of generic rom-coms. Starting with a dense MC, then figuring out he's just acting that way to get with either one of the girls, it's great. The studio is relatively new, but I like the character designs, and the animation and the shot composition is better than JC's staff doing Food Wars. There's a lot to like about this show. The two girls are super stereotypical, and the main character has to play around them. The one girl with the glasses seems like she's good at planning things out to throw off our main character. Our main character acts like a rom-com main character but then quickly reveals his true colors. It's actually not too bad. I was laughing out loud and was sad when the second episode ended. I really do like this show and will probably watch it to the end. This show is on so many streaming services, Crunchyroll, Verve, Funimation, High Dive, so please watch the first episode. It's so funny. Before I start this one, I just want to say that Netflix sucks when it comes to anime that are new and are licensed on their platform. They think that American fans love binging, so instead of airing when it actually airs, they put it up like months later when no one cares about it anymore, and then they just put it all up. That's fine for other TV shows, but no one likes this who watches anime. Even the creator themselves is surprised that people can't watch this show legally yet. They're so proud of the anime and no one can watch it except countries that mostly watch things like normal instead of binging. It's stupid. Piracy isn't a good thing, but when things aren't available anywhere or are available on only specific streaming services, I'm not saying to do it, but look for them somewhere else or get a VPN and access a Japanese Netflix or whatever. The creators should be proud of this anime because it's really good. Orange, the studio responsible for Land of the Illustrious, is responsible for this show, and they're the leaders in CG animation in my opinion. They go full CG, but cleverly mix some things that are 2D, and you don't even notice it. It looks clean, and I really like how it looks. It might not look too smooth, but that's just because of how fast the frame rate is for anime. It might look choppier on CG, but anime is the same way. Things don't look too smooth there either, but people just accept it, and they should also accept CG animation. Anyway, Beastars is great. Think of the second half of Zootopia, but if it was in high school and more violent. That's this show. So our main character, Legoshi, is this wolf at this high school mixed with a bunch of other animals. Because he's a wolf, he's always been feared because of his appearance, but he's actually a nice wolf. Because of a murder of a fellow classmate, word spreads around school about predators versus prey, and people become very scared of other predators. Just from the first episode alone, that's all I got from it. But it has so much potential. I've heard that the source material is good, and it has to deal with Legoshi trying to figure out what's going on by talking to other classmates who also deal with racism, basically. I'm pretty excited about this show. It looks good, it has a great premise, good characters so far, great music, and a great opening. I will watch this when it leaves the quote-unquote Netflix jail, a term popular in the anime community that expresses the hate of Netflix acquiring shows that they don't make themselves. They keep them hostage in America at least, in a figurative jail, so to speak. It sucks so much. It kills hype. I didn't watch Violet Evergarden or High Score Girl because of it. Just for anime, change your formula to weekly shows, because I know you do weekly shows for other things. Please. If you want to watch this show, that's all I have to say. Okay, that's all the shows that I'm interested in. Check them all out if you get the chance, and I'll see you guys in the next video.